we are getting closer to the end of our conference. The last item on the agenda is the adoption of our conclusions and a debate on these conclusions. If there should be the need to debate them. We have received some further amendments. Not all of them have been incorporated fully. We have tried to take them into consideration together with the members of the Troika so as to find a common position together with Estonia and Finland. And I do think that we've managed to prepare a balanced text, especially as regards notably our relationship with the United Kingdom and showing patience without being too explicit in the text. But because I think it would not be ideal to correct mistakes which we may be making now. So I do hope that everyone can agree to the compromise we've found. Also, as regards our future financial framework and funding, these are things I would like to ask you to leave aside for the time being, so that once the new parliament will have been elected, we can then discuss new twinning projects and so on. We did think that it would be too early to include these aspects in today's text. This being said, I would like to thank you again for all your contributions, which have shown that the speakers of our parliaments are very much interested in these issues, also when it comes to drafting our conclusions. And I do hope that we have managed to take many of your comments into consideration. Let me now ask you if there are any requests for the floor. As a matter of fact, we have received 4 requests already. We will start with President Gida.
Slowenien is nicht da, oder?
Slovenia? Is President Gida not in the room?
Let's notice to make a remark.
Yes, President had to excuse himself, so thank you.
Okay, we take the next speaker. Das ist der griechische Präsident.
The Greek President Voutis, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the Troika for the very good effort that you have made vis-à-vis the text. I would like to point out that even though there were 2 proposals from Greece for specific points in paragraph 7, there is no reference made to the obligation of the EU, according to international law, to protect the rights of refugees and migrants, and to the principle of solidarity that should be at the heart of managing refugee and migrant flows, even though very correctly there is in paragraph 1a a reference to the obligation of our neighbors to uphold these values and protect their rights. But of course, this is something that we have to do as well. So we could perhaps we cannot hear the speaker. So specific proposals have been made that you could take into account for paragraph 7 to have, in a way, a text that says that the speakers reiterate that the European Union is founded on the values of respect for human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, solidarity, and respect for human rights, including the rights of persons belonging to minorities, and to add next to minorities, refugees and migrants, to at least have this point that links to what we have agreed on. In any case, as far as Greece is concerned, we will be positive vis-à-vis the conclusions of our conference. Thank you.
Sehr geehrter Präsident, wir haben
Thank you, President. We did understand the Greek position in that it is also taken into consideration in Section 1A. But "and migrants" has not been added because I've seen our Hungarian colleague raise his hand. Otherwise, our compromise will be endangered. So I would like to ask for your help in finding a compromise. The next speaker on the list is the French senator, Mr. Bizet.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Comme je l'ai dit à l'instant.
As I said before, and as was said by President Larcher in the introductory remarks concerning finding this compromise and talking about the Brexit issue, we would have liked to add a sentence to the amendment by the Bundestag. The Conference of Presidents of Parliaments is taking place at a time when the European Union and the United Kingdom are confronted with a withdrawal process, and the presidents say that and would hope that the negotiated agreement would be found, and we could add, in order to put an end to the current uncertainty, and would make it possible for the European Union to take up the challenges with which it is confronted. Thank you very much. Mr. Senator, in preliminary remarks, there is a sentence already before the first paragraph. The Conference of Speakers of the European Union is taking place at a time when the United Kingdom and the European Union are dealing with a withdrawal procedure. The speakers expressed their hope that a negotiated solution will be found. I think this is quite a balanced sentence, and in view of the dramatic situation, it should be kept as it is. Otherwise, we would have to discuss again with the Troika whether we want to expand on this idea. I would then want to ask the Troika, if the Troika feels that this can be expanded, then we could include it. And then the next request for the floor is the President of Cyprus, Dimitris Solouris.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say that there isn't an issue on expanding that paragraph to include these more concrete issues on Brexit and the UK. We are concerned, and we are expressing our concern and our will to find a solution. And I would also like to support the proposal by the my Greek counterpart on the migration issue. These issues that are so hot, if you will, so difficult, should lead us to specific approaches to find a solution. Finding a compromise is a good thing, but that is should not be to the detriment of an actual solution.
Well, we will discuss this once again, but if we should be able to move in one or the other direction, we will see in to what side the scale will drop. And I think we should try to get a common document, and we wouldn't want one group to say, well, in this case, we will not do it. So I ask you for proposals that can be accepted by everybody. And the next speaker is President Köver.
Distinguished Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, the time has now come for me to say thank you for the exquisite hospitality that has been extended to us, as well as the preparatory work that the presidency has invested in drawing up the draft conclusions. I want to thank you for this all the more so because from our perspective, the original text could have been accepted and approved as it was, without any changes. It was, of course, not something that we could have drawn up ourselves, because if we had drawn up the text, we would have put the emphasis on other things. But we thought the text was good enough, and it did not require to be challenged by a large number of modification proposals. Some passages were removed, for example, the provision on the rights of minorities to use their own language, and we would have liked to see these passages included as in the original text. But in view of the sensitivity of other parties, we consented to these passages being removed from the text. Other passages were included that we would not have liked to see included. For example, the 1/A modification proposal is a case in point. And we have been ready to make a compromise even on these points, because we consented to the inclusion of these modification proposals. But there is an important difference at this point. We cannot accept the refugees and the migrant expression, because no document will be ever signed by Hungary at any level whatsoever, which document in its weights and in its narrative or in its terminology gives an incentive to migration. So either the Greek colleagues will accept the compromise, which in fact is already a concession made to them, because we are including provisions as an addition to the original draft, which we did not want to see included. And at the same time, the reference to the migrants will not be made, or otherwise we cannot sign the document. So please be aware that we have already taken several steps towards a compromise, and we are kindly asking you to show the same readiness to make a compromise. Do not try to impose a text on us which Hungary will never be able to accept. And I think Hungary's position on this issue has been very clear for several years.
Es sind nun keine weiteren Sprecher momentan eingemeldet. Den französischen Vorschlag ist man bereit, in der Troika mitzutragen, sodass wir in diesem Absatz, das betrifft den Absatz vor dem Eingehen zum Absatz 1 noch erweitern. Ich darf bitten um die Formulierung in Englisch, die also hier noch dazukommt. Ja, müssen Sie übersetzen, ich kann nicht Französisch. Darf ich den Senator ersuchen, diese...
Could I ask the senator to repeat or to give us the wording also in English? It's easier for us. Then we can adapt the text. No problem. We will give you that. I will give it to you in French. No? You want it in French? We will translate it, and then we will add it, okay? Concerning the proposal to look at section para 1A once again, I think that was a compromise, this text, and as we want to have some balance, so the issue of migrants is uncontested, doesn't concern Hungary, and here many have said before, and but we need to respect this. We want to have a common and joint document. I think including the refugees is stated here, and with that we have documented quite clearly what is our common position on this issue. And with that, unless there are no further comments, I would like to... The President is asking for the floor.
The discussion of this very important issue of refugees and migrants is not an issue between Greece and Hungary. Let us not translate it as such. Not between two groups of people, groups of countries. This is something that affects the entire EU, and in light of the EU elections, we are very much behind in shaping common policies, taking into account also the reforms and revisions that have to do with Dublin and other relevant points. For our part, I believe that we should maintain paragraph 1A as it is. I think that we should add definitely in paragraph 7 the reference also where we speak of the values to also mention, when we speak of minorities, also mention refugees and migrants. If you feel that this is a point of compromise that is acceptable, I will note that as a point of order, and we can move forward, and we will vote in favor of the text.
I think we should stay and stick to the original text because it was not a topic of the session. We saw that the issue of Dublin is a topic that's been discussed for 3 years and had affected many council meetings, and we should not be affected by that. Otherwise, we will not have a joint common document. So the compromise would be, which is that we add it up into the protocol, but we will not put it into this document, that this is also the position of Greece and Cyprus, if you can live with that. And now the colleague from FICO has asked for the floor. Please.
The floor is yours.
Sì, grazie Presidente. Anche
Mr. Speaker, also we think that paragraph 1A must stand as it is. This is of fundamental importance. It must stand as it is, paragraph 1A.
Then,
okay. Then I would, looking around, would say there is still the colleague from Slovenia. Yes? Slovakia comes first.
Well, I'd like to support the position of Mr. Kuver. Migration has not been the key topic of this conference. You know, when we want to resolve migration, first and foremost, we must clarify definitions of migration. We must differentiate between economic migrants and the other ones. So it's a package of problems. But I think that this conference should convey a message concerning those areas in which we stand united. I think that migration has triggered a Brexit, and I think that we should finalize this conference in line with the initially submitted text. We should not reopen older wounds. Thank you.
And now, Hungary, please.
Mr. Speaker, it's a question of clarification that I would like to raise, because I interpreted your position differently from the interpretation of my colleague, Mr. Fico. So you said that 1/A as an amendment proposal should be maintained in its original format, because this means that we cannot agree with that. Or does your comment mean that the 1/A modification should not be accepted, and because then we can accept your proposal?
Let me maybe simply read Section 1A, since it is not shown on the screen.
For the need for the European Union in its relations with neighboring countries to its east and south to pursue without hesitation its values and principles, such as the promotion of democracy and the rule of law, the protection of fundamental rights, and human dignity, including of refugees in transit through these neighboring countries. Das ist der Kompromiss.
This is a compromise which we have tried to reach, also considering Section 7, and we would add a remark in a protocol as regards Greece's and Cyprus's amendment. This would be mentioned in a protocol added to the conclusion. That would be a compromise. Try to agree to this compromise. Austria has always been known to just make this little additional step if a compromise is needed, and just try to find common ground, and maybe we can find an agreement over a glass of wine during lunch. So let me thank you all for your willingness to agree to this compromise. And I would also like to thank you for this excellent debate. Trying to find the right words in a compromise text, to me, is something which is not about focusing on little details. I do see that every parliament, every delegation actually has to make their individual contribution. Let me now move on to my final remarks. I would like to thank you all for your contributions during the debate, but also in the background of the conference in our bilateral meetings. I would also like to thank our interpreters. The interpreters thank you for listening to our interpretation. Pictures and the video on demand will be published on the website of the parliamentary dimension of the Austrian EU presidency and on our YouTube channel as soon as possible. Let me say thank you to everyone who was involved in the preparations in the run-up to this conference, who prepared the conference hall, the texts, who accompanied the delegations. Especially a big thank you to our staff in the Parliament administration, but also to the Concert House staff. Before we close the meeting, let me pass the floor to the next chair, the President of the Finnish Parliament, and I would like to ask you for your attention for another few minutes.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speakers, I know that I speak for all of us when I thank you for your arranging this conference and for the effective manner in which you led us to debate several important and topic subjects. I wish to congratulate you and the staff of the Austrian Parliament for the splendid organization of our conference. Finland has a general election next Sunday. I do not know who will warmly welcome you to the next speaker conference, but already in these connections I would like to welcome you very warmly, Finland, after some months. Speakers' conference will take place in Helsinki at the 7th, 18th and 19th of May 2020. Because Helsinki is far away, please plan to come for dinner with us on Monday 17th. Welcome to Finland. Thank you.
Vielen herzlichen Dank. Wir werden gerne.
Thank you very much. It will be a pleasure to come to Finland. It's certainly a good date. Springtime in Finland will wait for us.